You know you're a mom when the only Band-Aids you have in your house are Paw Patrol ones. You know, misery loves company, so let's all be miserable together. Hey makeup friends, and welcome back to the channel, or if you're new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and today we are doing our final check-in for my 2022 Project Pan. I can't believe I stuck with it for a full year, honestly. I'm amazed by that, and I'm very proud of that. And I've already filmed an intro for my 2023 Project Pan, so I'm kind of hooked. So before we get into it, there are two things that I want to address. One, really quickly, a lot of the makeup, well, the eye makeup at any rate, are items that I'm going to be talking about in this video. But really quickly, on my cheeks, I have one of the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blushes in the shade At Night. And then on my lips, I have a liquid lipstick from Cheekbone Beauty in the shade Bethany. If you're in Canada, you can purchase these items through the Sephora website, just so you're aware. The other thing I want to quickly address is the audio quality. Thank you so much for putting up with all of my struggles with that, between the white noise and the humming sound, and just trust me, I have to sit and edit these videos, and hearing all of that background noise drives me absolutely insane. And so I think I've finally figured it out. It has taken hours, literally hours of sitting here and configuring different things. And I have to give a huge shout out to Robert Welsh. He's been very, very helpful with me, sending me some video links for some configuration and setup ideas, and sending me the name of a program that he uses for his audio. And it has been wildly helpful. So Robert, thank you so much. Okay, with that addressed, let's get into the Project Pan. So I first want to start by traveling back in time to January of 2022 and taking a look at the items that were initially put into the project that still aren't finished at this point. So up first we have the Makeup Geek eye pencil in the shade Espresso. And so here we can see the progress that I did manage to make. I basically used up about half of the pencil, and so I'm happy with that progress. Of course, I would have loved to have finished the pencil completely, but I did give it very dedicated use. I'm not going to roll it into my 2023 Project Pan, if only because it's just not an exciting project or product to work on in that kind of sense. But I am going to leave it front and center, and it is going to continue to be a daily use item for me. I'm concerned that if I put it in with my pencil holder, that it's just going to get lost because it's so short, and then I'll just completely forget about it. So out of sight, out of mind. So I am just going to leave it in with my Project Pan items, although I'm not going to be tracking the progress in the way that I did this year. The other item that is not completely finished, and frankly I'm kind of surprised that I didn't finish it, is the shade Pink Diamonds from Huda Beauty. So that was set out in the Rose Gold Remastered palette. One of you gave me the genius idea of depotting it from that palette and pressing it into the Tartelette in Bloom palette, which I did go ahead and do. And so there is the progress on this shade here. It is almost gone. And while I have this up here, we may as well look at the rest of the Tartelette in Bloom palette. And I am just so thrilled with how much use I got out of this palette. I spent a lot of time really considering what items I wanted to put into my 2022 project. And I knew that it was going to be a risk putting a palette in because it was going to go one of two ways. Either I was going to really enjoy the palette and find it very useful and not get bored with it, or the opposite was going to happen and I was going to become resentful and just never want to see the palette again. Happily, if you've been watching this project roll out over the year, you know I love this palette. I love the Tartelette in Bloom palette. I have not found it a struggle to continue using this one. Now, I do think that that goes hand in hand with my overall sort of ambivalence towards a lot of new makeup throughout the year. I just didn't find a lot of palettes to be very exciting throughout 2022, and so there really wasn't a drive for me to purchase a lot of palettes. I did pick some up, but I didn't have an issue coming back to this palette. It's just such a great staple workhorse product for everyday makeup applications, so I've been very, very happy with it. If you watched my eyeshadow palette declutter video that I posted a little while ago, you do know that I am planning to declutter this palette. So my plan then is to completely use up the Huda Beauty shade. I'm going to continue leaving this palette out for everyday use until that shade is gone. and then I'm going to go ahead and declutter the remainder. I could force myself to use it up completely, but I feel like that's going to take the joy away from it. It's going to take my love of the palette away. It's going to feel like work in the way that somehow it avoided feeling like for the past year. And I can't quite explain the nuance, but I think it's because I had that 1 year goal in mind. We've reached that 1 year goal, and now extending the goalpost just feels like work. So I'm not going to do that to myself. I have a lot of other neutral palettes. I'm really excited to start digging back into my collection, especially since I've done the massive declutter. I can really see what I have. I've reacquainted myself with my collection, and I'm really looking forward to getting as much use out of the products that I have as I can. So that's the plan with this. But those were the only, nope, there's one more. And then we have Flexitarian from ColourPop, and my goodness, we got close on this one. So there you can see there's very little product left in there. This is an item that I am going to roll over into my 2023 project pan. And I explained my reasons for it in that video, but just briefly, I suspect that if I just put this back into the drawer with all of my other highlighters, the novelty of being able to just wear whatever highlighter I want is going to overpower my desire to finish this out. And I'm probably just going to end up ignoring this one, at least for a little while. And so I don't want to do that. There's so little of it left that I really do want to focus on it. So it's going to be in my 2023 project, so you will continue seeing this one. I will say at the very beginning of my project, initially I had brought in a different highlighter and then I switched it out for this one probably around the 2 or 3 month mark. So I started off with the Stila Heaven's Hue highlighter in Kitten, quickly realized that it just was not panable whatsoever. Like there was no way I was going to finish that one. I thought that there was a chance I could finish this one. I came very close, but I suspect that if I had started with this right out of the gate, that it would be done by now. But here we are. No regrets. Love this highlighter. It has not been a challenge to use this one almost to the exclusion of the others. I will, like I'm not married to my project pan. I will sort of look elsewhere and use other products from time to time, but the vast majority of the time, this is the highlighter that I've been reaching for. So of the 10 items that I had in my initial project pan, I finished up 7 of them. I did consider the Tartelette in Bloom to be finished, even though there's still product left in the pans, because my goal was just to hit pan on 10 of the 12 shades, and I ended up finishing 3 of them entirely and hitting pan on all of the other shades. So I'm very, very happy with that. And then throughout the course of the year, I did bring in other items. Now, I'm not going to do a full recap on all of those because I've already done that and it would just be redundant at this point. But I am going to quickly talk about the items that I brought in at the last update because I have managed to finish a few of them, or I guess 2 updates ago, because I did do an update towards the end of November that I wasn't anticipating doing, but regardless, we still have 3 empties that I want to talk about. So one is Sunflowers from Elizabeth Arden. I love this perfume. It's just so nostalgic to me. Like that scent just transports me back in time. Oh, it's so wonderful, but it is nice to finish a perfume and I'm very excited about that. I also finished the primer from Laura Mercier. This is the Radiance Foundation Primer. Again, I know I could cut these things and scrape out every last little drop, but I'm not going to, so it is what it is. And then we finished a concealer. So this is the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer in the satin finish, and I have it in the shade Light Sand, which I would say is a little bit too pink for me. I tend to be a little bit more on the golden side, so I have been using it in conjunction with my Good Apple concealer from KVD. It's a little bit too light. Mixed with this, it just makes it very, very wearable. It's what I've got going on here. I did take the stopper out a little while ago, but even at that, there was very, very little product left in there, but she is completely empty. I do have like that little spatula tool that I could go in and scrape the sides, but in looking at it, like it's not wet product that's along the sides. This is all dried out and crusty, and I don't want to apply that to my face. So we are calling this one done. I would consider repurchasing this one, maybe in a slightly different shade, but I have quite a few concealers and I don't feel the need to replace this specific one. I liked it, but not loved it enough that I would want to use this above using the other ones that I've sort of been neglecting for the last few months. So very happy with that progress. And then there were some other items that I had brought in, and I didn't mark them to see where we started from. It was just a matter of they're either going to be finished or they're not. And they're not, but over the last couple of months, I have definitely made progress on them. So for example, we have the Lorac eyelid primer here. And I don't know if you can quite see, but basically the product starts about here now instead of the full tube, because this was basically brand new when I started using it. I'll continue using it. I don't dislike it. I do prefer a primer that sort of blots out and color corrects my eyelids because I do have a lot of shadowing there. This one doesn't, it's clear. But in terms of blendability on top of it and it like gripping onto the eyeshadow that I place on top of it, I've got no complaints. It's not my favorite, but it's completely functional and I will use it until it's done. And then I had two brow products. So one is the brow pencil from Florasis, and then we've got the Control Freak brow gel from NYX. So I used them together. And brow pencils just aren't my thing. Like they're just, I can't get excited about it. This one, I mean, I like that it's sort of on an angle. I like that it's nice and thin and very precise. It's not the kind of pigment where you really have to drag it in order for it to show up, but it's also not like full intensity where you get really odd looking eyebrows. So it is a rather natural looking product once you fill your brows in. So I really do like that from it, but brow pencils overall just aren't my thing. I much prefer a tinted brow gel. So I do want to continue using up the pencils that I have, but I have absolutely no plans to purchase any. And then lastly, we have the Lash Clash mascara from YSL. I think I've probably got another like week or two of use out of this. It's starting to get a little bit dry, but it's still applying really nicely and not flaking off. So it's almost done, but not quite. I can't see myself buying the full size of it. I just don't think that the effect of it is worth the full price tag. I think that you can get a very similar effect from less expensive and even drugstore mascaras. There are some fantastic drugstore mascaras out there. Initially, right off the top of my head, I'm thinking Lash Paradise from L'Oreal. Very similar effect, although honestly, I would give the edge to the Lash Paradise because I think that it's a bit more volumizing than the YSL one is. Now, before we wrap this video up, though, I do want to give a little summary of the items that I was able to finish throughout the year. When I sat down in January, I knew that I was going to finish items. That is the nature of the beast, but I had no idea what that would actually look like in terms of the numbers. So, throughout the course of 2022, I did pull in 20 perfume samples into this project, and I finished all of those. And then in terms of makeup items, whether they're full-size, deluxe-size sample, or in the case of the Tartelette in Bloom, not completely finished, but finished for the purposes of the project, I completed 18 other makeup products, including some perfumes along the way as well. So that concludes my 2022 Project Pan, and I'm just so very grateful for all the moral support that you guys have given me throughout the year. The projects can get to be a bit of a drag from time to time, and you have like highs and lows with it. So it's been really nice to have your support throughout the year, and I'm really hoping that that will continue in 2023 as well. If you're planning any sort of project for next year, let me know in the comments down below. But for now, I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next video. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.